All right. Welcome. And welcome to Play and Learn. And I'm Dr. Susan, and it's a delight that you're here with me at this moment in time, whether it's morning or afternoon or evening, whenever you're tuning in. What we want to do today is I wanted to read this really cool, and it's a cute book. It's all about being frustrated. And I know many, many of us have gone through, and I'm sure that you're going through it, especially at this time right now. And our parents are probably very frustrated, and kind of everybody walking around probably has that feeling now and then, or maybe a little more often than that. But it's all about being frustrated, and what do you do with it, and how do you let go of it, and what does it really feel like? Do you know what frustration feels like? Sometimes it comes and it goes before you recognize what it is. So we're going to do a few little hints about how we go about handling frustration when it happens, so it doesn't create more challenges for us than the process of what you're frustrated about. So we're going to read the book, and the book is called, if it's ready, there we go. The book is called, let me pull the page up. It's called The Very Frustrated Monster, and it's by Andy Green. Oh, and see, there's a little bit of frustration right there. I think the book is a little bit frustrated. I'll tell you a little story about him after we finish with the book. Okay? His eyes are all red, and he's stomping his feet, and his hands are on his wrist. That looks a little bit frustrated. But that's the little character. All right, so let's see how this happens. Twitch, the monster of frustration. The Very Frustrated Monster, a Worry-Woe Tale by Andy Green. And pay quite a close attention to the little squirrel that's sitting up there. He has a very important part to play in this story. All right. Have you ever had a day when nothing goes right, and you wonder, why me, from morning till night? Well, a monster named Twitch was having that day. Everything around him seemed to go the wrong way. It started at sunrise. His alarm didn't ring, and thus began a day filled with frustrating things. I guess he was going to be. He stubbed his 2 toes as he jumped out of bed, tripped on his backpack, and bumped his horned head just getting out of bed. 3 things. Goodness. For breakfast, Twitch wanted wheat toast and woo tea. But the bread was all gone. How could that be? If you look really close at the book, down towards his feet, you might see the reason. So he left without eating and locked his keys in the house. Then he saw his bread had been snatched by a mouse. Twitch became quite upset, and he made a big fuss. Look, the little mouse was trying to give him his keys, and he wasn't paying any attention. To add to his troubles, he was late for the bus. Though he ran very fast to get to the stop, his ride passed him by. Twitch was ready to pop. Does look a little bit on the frustrated side over there. To calm himself down, Twitch counted to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Doesn't look like it helped much. And he took 4 deep breaths and began once again. Let's start over. Yet he just couldn't let anything go, which made his frustrations continue to grow. So maybe he needed to stop and count to 10 again, you think? Twitch walked into school filled to the brim with all of his feelings that were bothering him. Boy, there's a whole lot of them following him around, isn't it? Do you suppose that was heavy on his heart and his mind? That's kind of what frustration looks like. He sat in his chair and tapped both his feet. Twitch tried to sit still, but he bounced in his seat. An emotional volcano bubbled within. The pressure Twitch felt seemed to make his world spin. He's got a volcano on the top of his head. Poor guy. Uh-oh, what happened to his chair? The grass was too green. Its little sign said Twitch's green grass garden. He didn't even get joy from sitting in his little garden. The sun was too bright. He couldn't see anything. His lunch tasted funny. Lunch special was stinky cheese on rye. Okay, that doesn't sound very tasty. School sing-along, go team, whoa. His gym shorts were tight. And it's only got worse. At the school sing-along, Twitch froze up on stage and the words came out wrong. Oh. When handed a prize, Twitch became very flushed. It wasn't first place, now his spirits were crushed. His classmates applauded, whistled, and grinned. Yippee! Wonderful! Yay! Great job! Which bristled and brewed and let frustration win. You think he's a little unhappy? He threw down his ribbon and yelled at his peers, or friends. Twitch was so overwhelmed that he broke into tears. His friends scurried off as fast as they could, because a frustrated Twitch was never good. Why me? It's not fair, he went on to complain as he looked around to find someone to blame. But alone, Twitch did stand there with nobody else. His monstrous ways had left him all by himself. I give up, he said softly and sad as could be. Then he noticed a squirrel running up a big tree. It was carrying acorns from the ground to its nest. When some fell down, it went back for the rest. Oh boy, that means you get to go after those acorns again, right? And the nuts, they were cracked or scattered from the fall. Didn't stop the small squirrel. Didn't stop him at all. See, there he is, getting more nuts, getting more acorns. The squirrel may have been frustrated when things went awry, but he brushed itself off and continued to try. For this bushy-tailed creature knew it couldn't control the wind or the rain that may make the nuts roll. At least he found a blossom to get under so the rain wasn't on him, right? And the harder it worked, the harder he worked, the more Twitch could see that life's little frustrations are what you make them to be. You can let them upset you and spoil your day, or you can turn things around in a positive way. So the squirrel is trying to show him that there's other things you can do. The following morning, Twitch woke up on time. Oh, look, the mouse even brought him breakfast in bed, so he didn't eat his toast. How sweet of that. And apologized to his friends for acting unkind. It says, I love you, and it's done in acorns, acorn art. He showed off his ribbon as proud as could be. Third, a sing-along winner. And the squirrel and the mouse were proud of him too. Then hung it from a branch on the squirrel's favorite tree. The end. We have a sparkly end. Isn't that cool? and now Twitch is sitting on the ground, and he's doing the acorn art with the squirrel and the mouse that made his life miserable just a little earlier that day. We've read that book, and we saw the frustration that Twitch went through from the time he got out of bed till he got to school and went through all the sing-along that he was doing. And it was just a rough day for him. And he tried, he really did, at that little part of the book when he realized he was so frustrated, he went ahead and did something that he knew sometimes helped when he got frustrated. So he took we counted to 10, very slowly and very calmly, and then he took 4 deep breaths. And that didn't seem to do the trick. Things kept going forward. And so we wonder, why did what he usually didn't work? And one of the things that Twitch didn't do was he didn't forgive himself for all the things, being late, the alarm not going off, and missing breakfast and all of that started the frustration for him, was to say, it's okay, I'm going to start again. Let's start new. And by doing the breathing and counting to 10, and then he moved on. But the thing he forgot to do was to change his mind about what he was thinking. He was still thinking about all those things that made him frustrated. So the frustration just continued to grow. That was the hard part for Twitch. And he didn't really realize that that's what he neglected to do. So it just continued. The frustration kept going more and more and more. And we have that happen with us sometimes. We take a deep breath, like, okay, I'm going to do something else now. Do something different. Do something different. Okay? And so that was the frustration there that he was going through. He just didn't take that final step. And some of the things that, like, I don't know about a lot of you boys and girls, I'm sure you do, but I know Legos are a great big thing, and there's all kinds of Legos kits out there that you can get and make, and all those pieces you have to put together. And have you ever got to that place where you just couldn't get the rest of it to work, and the pieces didn't go together or anything like that? And your first thought when the frustration really builds, or you really get upset with it, the first thing you want to do is just throw it across the room. It might feel good for 1 second, just 1 second. And then you have to stop and look at what you did. There's a mess. Legos are everywhere all over the floor, and there's little teeny tiny pieces you have to find so that you can go back to it later and continue on and try and create the activity and things you were doing. And one of the things that happens when we just throw something or just get so frustrated we just let it go. We physically let it go, but we didn't mentally let it go or emotionally let it go. Those pieces are just thrown all over the floor, so it just aggravates you even more, and you get more upset and you fuss even more. So one of the tricks is when you get that place where it's getting difficult for you, you stop and you put it aside. You move it over to another part of the table or the desk, or you get up and you go walk around, you go get something to drink, or one of those things, go talk to your mom, or maybe go watch something on TV for a little while, and then come back to it, and then 9 times out of 10, whatever it was that was stopping you is now cleared away, and you're able to start and go further. And one of the things, I was working on a sewing project with my grandson, who's Dominic, and he's 9. He was sitting and playing with his Transformers on my bed, and I was muttering to myself because the project I was working on wasn't going smoothly like I wanted it to. And I started saying things, oh, this thing is just driving me crazy. And so he came over come over and stood next to me. He said, Grandma, what's the matter? Are you frustrated? And I looked at him and I said, yes, I am frustrated. This isn't working the way it's supposed to work. He said, well, is it broken? I said, no, it's not broken. It's just not working. He said, how about we go get a drink? And this is my 9-year-old grandson, and I'm a lot older than my grandson. So it was his wisdom that he saw that I was frustrated. So he offered a suggestion, which was a great idea. So we went in the kitchen and got something to drink, and we talked to his mommy for a little while, and then we went back in, and I started again, and it went more smoothly that time. So sometimes you just don't know where that wisdom is going to come from when you're stuck in that muck and you can't get out of it. And so I wasn't to the place, I guess, where I needed to count or anything like that, but he recognized it, which was very wonderful of him to say, is this something working? So that's another thing, is when we have people and friends and family in our home, sometimes they're able to help us with the frustration if we're willing to stop and listen to what they're telling us or suggesting to us. And sometimes that helps. I could have just said, no, don't bother me, you know, and I would have still probably gotten more frustrated as my time went on when I was working on the project. So that's a couple of things that we can do when we get that feeling of frustration. And even though Twitch found his, knew that he was frustrated, what he was doing just didn't seem to work. So one of the things that I thought would be fun to do today is get a physical picture of what frustration looks like, so that we can stop and maybe do this particular picture or this process and do that, and then by the time we finish, we might be able to go back to what we were doing before and it'll move a lot smoother. All right? So here's it's a little trick that you can play. All you need is a piece of paper, just like this. You just need a piece of paper, okay, like that. And you don't have to have a ruler, but if you want one, you can. I'll show you what I'm doing with mine. So you just take a piece of paper, and I'm going to take this one, and you fold it in half, just like this. Okay, you see that? And you fold it in half again, you make 4 squares. So we see the 4 squares, okay? This paper is a little thicker because I'm going to use markers. That's the reason why it's thicker. Okay, and I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to make the line of where I made the fold down the very center, because I want to see 4 boxes, okay? Just like that. So now I have 4 boxes. Oops. When I get the lines correct. Okay, so there's my 4 boxes, all right? Now, the first box that's right here, this is the first square right there. I'm going to start there. The first square is when our frustration of whatever we're doing starts to get heavy, okay? And it starts to get heavy. So I'm going to use a colored pen so you can see what I'm talking about. And what the trick is take your paper, get colored pens, colored pencils, something with colors so that you can see it, okay? And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to make circles, just colored circles like dots, just all over the place. Don't put them on top of one another. Just make the dots all over the place, just like this. And they're really these little dots. And they're scattered everywhere because the scattering here is because our mind is just going everywhere. We just can't seem to focus and get settled down to solving the problem that's causing the frustration that we're having, okay? So that's number 1. That's our first step. And I think what we'll do is we'll number these squares. This is just number 1 right there. That's number 1. Then number 2, and I'll get a different colored pen. How about orange? That looks good. So this one is we recognize, so let's say that this is the part that Twitch recognized that he was being frustrated because of all the activities happening to him till he got to the, got out of the house, okay? And got to school. So this is when he calmed down and counted to 10 and, said, I'm going to start again. So this is the second part. So this is number 2. So he hasn't let totally go, but he recognizes that he's frustrated. So we're still going to make the orange circles, and these are a little tiny bit closer. So it's a little more clearing because he does recognize that he's frustrated. And the deep breaths that he took and the calming he took wasn't really, really working. So he's a little more clear, but not totally, because the things are he's still getting upset with things. Okay, and the frustration is following, and now the frustration is continuing to build. But he recognized it. So there's not as much of that activity like that going on inside of him. So that's number 2. And then he got to number 3, which this is when he sees the squirrel. Okay? So this is when the squirrel shows up. And he's watching the squirrel, seeing that even though the squirrel keeps taking these acorns up the tree and they keep falling out and going on the ground, so instead of getting so frustrated with this, the squirrel brushed it off and said, okay, I got to go get him again. So he's not as frustrated, or he's not fighting the frustration. So the circles are even closer together because inside he's feeling calmer, and he's not letting the wind or the rain that's rolling more of the acorns out of the nest onto the ground. He's not feeling that. He's just letting it happen because he can't do anything about it. So he just goes, okay. And the squirrel was smart enough to go over and stand under a blossom so he wasn't getting wet. Okay? So he was able to take some positive action. So there we go. There's that one. That's number 3. Number 4 is when Twitch recognizes, let's see, this should work. When Twitch recognizes that it's really what you do with the frustration when things aren't working. And so he goes, oh. And that's when he decided that it was time to go home. So he went, oh, that looks like the same color. He went home, and when he went home, he went to bed. And the next morning, he got up, the alarm went off, and he got up on time. So his calming center was very close. Everything was connected and feeling good. And if you noticed in the story, on the one page, that the mouse had brought him breakfast, brought him toast and some wah juice. Okay? So now the circles are a lot even closer together than what they were over here. Okay? So this is when he recognizes, oh, I have to do something about this. So he goes in and he eats his breakfast. He goes to school, and what he does first is he recognizes that the frustration and everything was he just kept adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. So he let go of that, and when he went to bed and woke up, the alarm went off, he got a breakfast, he got to school, and the first thing he remembered he had to do was he apologized to his friends because he was unkind, especially when they were applauding him and telling him how wonderful it was, and then he just got angry because he didn't get first place. Okay, one more thing that was against him. So the circles that you see here, when the circles are so far apart, usually you would think they'd be really super close together because you're really tense and things like that, is that there is so much space in there where all that negativity and all those awful sad feelings and unhappy feelings and, somebody did this to me, or I got to complain about it, or whatever. So there's so much space for that to come in. And then we'll go through that again. Once that Twitch recognized that, he did his calming thing. It didn't work all the way because he didn't let go of it. He just brought it along with him, so there was just more. And more was added to it. But he was aware. That's the difference. So there was little less space for all that negativity to come in. And when he got to 3, it was less space there. And then when he realized that he doesn't have to control everything, that he can flow with it and move along with what's happening. And so when he gets to the 4th place, he was kind of saying, oh, it's okay, Twitch. We have a new day where the alarm went off. I really need to tell my friends I'm sorry and move forward, and that he loved them. And so now all the energy is positive. The positive energy clings together and makes it wonderful. So that's part of what the frustration looked like for Twitch. So now we're going to take our piece of paper and create, and I'm going to use a totally different color so you can see it. Maybe this will work. The next thing I want you to do is to take a pen and do it any way you want and connect all the dots. They can be connected in all kinds of fun ways. Just connect the dots. And there's a picture of how scattered your thinking gets when you get frustrated. And when you recognize that the frustration, and there isn't a whole lot you can do with that except allow it to continue. So then that we gets to this place, then you take your pen and do the same thing with the next one. So what you're doing is giving your mind some spaces where it can be creative and relax and create something fun. We can let the frustration go and just create some fun things that we can do. So here's this one. And there's a whole lot more space there to be creative. So let's do another one. Let's do number 3 and see what that brings us. This will work. Okay, so I'm going to start in the center. And we're going to go from there. Can you see that? So we're going to go like this and maybe like this. Kind of go like this. Go all the way around so we can connect it. So we kind of have a place to start right here. And we finish in a center of calm. So we put a heart in the middle right there. Okay? So there's the center of calm right there. And then here on the green, the last one, and this should work. The last one that we have here, this is when there's tons and tons of dots. And now that the day has begun again and all the frustration has gone, we have ways in which we can even be more creative, find more exciting things to do. And the outlet that we have here is the creativity that our mind in a cool, calm, open space, and even though it looks like it's very crowded, but the crowding is the creativity and the positivity and those things that we want in our life to get us through those kinds of days when we tend to walk off the path and forget the way we were frustrated and unhappy with what was going on. So you can see that the first one, all that negative space that's in there, then when he is a little more aware, it closes up a little bit more. And then here is the path to the center of his heart. And then here is his total realization or seeing how that happens. So that's kind of a picture of what our frustration can look like and how we can do things with calming breaths, counting to 10, moving away from the activity that's causing all the frustration and do something different and then come back to it so that we can get accomplished what we're ultimately looking for to do. So that was the fun thing to do today. And it's a good picture so you can kind of see what that looks like. So we can say goodbye to Twitch and know that he's doing much better. And when we sit down and color and be creative, that kind of calms our centers too and gives us a place to start from again. So with that, I wish you a wonderful week. Have a great rest of the day. And whatever you do this week, know that you can always, if frustration creeps in the door, you can always tell it to go back out. And you can do it with forgiving yourself and knowing that there's always a new start. So thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.